So this is the story of why the production for We Drove America's Largest Pickup Truck took 11 months, and 10 months of that was pre-production. Part of my job at Donut was finding vehicles that we needed to make the videos that we wanted to make. And it was also to just find interesting vehicles and pitch those as ideas for something we could make a video about. My boss at the time at Donut, Max, the creative director, he loved titles that were superlatives. So the biggest, the most expensive, the fastest. And he was very title first, but I'm very like concept or idea first. I wrote about that in a Substack post because that dynamic actually works pretty well. And I found a picture of this gigantic pickup truck, which is basically just a commercial truck chassis with a pickup truck bed attached to it. And I showed that to Max and he immediately goes, "Oh yeah, we drove the biggest pickup truck, great title, find one, let's do it." So it gets greenlit like really fast. And then that's where things get complicated because we had to make lots of choices about what we were going to do with that. So there are actually 4 of these giant models of pickup truck. And so we had to first choose which one we were going to shoot. And the first one is the Freightliner Sport Chassis. Sport Chassis is all one word for some reason. And I tracked down a couple of those, but when you look at them, they really just look like a semi-cab with a pickup truck bed bolted onto it, which is exactly what it is. It didn't look enough like a giant pickup truck. It really just looked like a semi with a pickup bed. The next option was the Ford F650, but the problem with that was that Doug DeMuro had already done a review of specifically that truck and it got 17 million views. When you get that many views on an idea, you own that idea. Like anyone who tries to do that after you've done it, after you've gotten 17 million views doing it, is just going to be viewed as copying you. And so there's no point in trying to make that video. The third option was the Chevy Kodiak or GMC Top Kick. They're the same thing. And Jesse found one of those in Malibu or something parked at a gas station. It was for sale. So Jesse is Jesse Wood. He's the co-founder of Speed. So he found one of these trucks for sale, got the phone number, gave it to me. I reached out multiple times and never got a call back from the owner. So we were like, okay, well, that's obviously not going to work. And really, we preferred the look of the International XT. And so it was decided that was the one that we were going to try and get. A big reason why is that the International brand itself has an interesting story. It was started in 1902 as International Harvester to make agricultural equipment. And so that gave us a story to tell. We always tried to have some kind of story. It wasn't going to be a video where just like, hey, look at this big giant truck, or like try and point out the quirks and features, because that wasn't our thing. Our thing was storytelling. So we decided on the International XT as being the one we wanted. Now I just had to find one. And the problem was the Donut studio is based in California and the International XT is mostly illegal to register in California. It's sort of between 2 sets of regulations because it's a commercial truck chassis, but the people who are buying them as passenger vehicles, and it ends up being something you can't really register in California. But I did manage to find one. It's the International MXT, and that was owned by this nice guy who used it to haul his kids' go-karts to and from a track in Nevada and his home in California. But Max looked at that and said, no, it's too military looking, and I think it is a slightly different chassis that it's built on, this military truck. We want the CXT, which is the civilian non-military truck. And so over the next few months, I found maybe a dozen of these kind of all over the country. And that's its own sort of problem. I'm finding trucks in Texas, of course, it's a very Texas thing, Florida, same, Montana and Alabama. And if we're going to fly somewhere to shoot something, we had to have more than one video lined up to justify the expense. So months go by and I keep trying to find something closer. And then this opportunity pops up to go to Atlanta because 2 of the hosts are going there to shoot an eBay Motors promo spot with T-Pain. And I have this aha moment because I remember the guy in Alabama who owns one of these trucks uses it to haul race cars from his house in Alabama to the Road Atlanta racetrack. So I call him up, I ask, are you gonna be in Atlanta these specific dates? And he says no, but he's willing to make the trip. And I think all he asked for in return was that we promote his detailing business or something like that. He did us a huge favor. He was an incredibly nice guy. And more often than not, the owners of the vehicles that we used were like super, super nice. I have some stories about ones who weren't, which I'll share one day. So after 10 months of searching, trying to set this up, we finally had a location, we had a truck, and we had a date that we could shoot this. So that meant I had to hurry up and write the script with the history of International Harvester and start working closely with the production department to start booking flights, hotels, equipment, locations to shoot at. I think there might have been some additional crew that they had to get and so on. So our crew flies out to Atlanta and goes to do the eBay thing, and they're going to shoot with the giant pickup truck after, and the eBay thing turns into a huge shit show. Now, I was not involved with that, so I'm just going to tell you what I was told, and basically it's this. So the Screen Actors Guild, SAG, has a branch in Atlanta, and there were SAG members based in Atlanta who were involved with this eBay Motors bit, and they find out there's these two guys coming from California, and they're not even SAG members. They contact the union makes some kind of threats, this turns into a whole thing, and there ends up being like this Zoom call between some eBay Motors people, and the VP of production is in that meeting, and he's an absolute dick, and he's the reason why I ended up quitting Donut, because I had gotten a phone call from someone there who said that this VP was basically campaigning to have me fired, and I said screw that, this is just like the last straw, and I quit. Anyway, so on this Zoom call, you've got eBay people, you've got Donut people, and it turns into a whole thing, and the VP is swearing at these eBay people and telling them that they need to effing fix it and they're effing incompetent and blah, 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 like all this stuff. Again, this is just what I was told, and basically what I was told is that he just completely loses his shit. He explodes, fully unprofessional, but even if what I was told is an exaggeration, it's still kind of insane that it happened because eBay Motors was one of our biggest advertising clients. I don't know that we made $1 million a year off of them, but it might have been close. Anyway, eventually they got that whole thing worked out. Meanwhile, Henry, the director for the big truck video, he's doing directory things, like he's going out and scouting the locations to figure out where he's going to shoot stuff. And the structure of these vehicle shoots is sort of like two parts. You have a stationary half where the hosts are going to like read the scripted material, like the history and the wow details about the truck, and then you've got like the driving portion where they're going to go out and show what it's capable of and have fun with it. And the forecast called for rain, so Henry needed to find a covered space to shoot all the stationary stuff because they were going to be there for a while. So he works with me in the production department, and we book this warehouse that has a roll-up door so they can drive into it. And there's a website where you can book those things without actually having seen them. They got lots of pictures. Think about it as like Airbnb for remote shooting locations. Now, this is all happening 1, maybe 2 days before Henry needs to shoot this. And then somebody figures out that the truck is taller than the roll-up door in the warehouse that we've rented. So we have to book a second location, and we're booking these through, a website where it's like Airbnb. You might never speak to the person who manages the property. And in this case, we had to find out like how tall is the roll-up door. And most people don't know. They're just like, oh, well, it's tall. So we're in California phoning up property managers in Atlanta and asking them to head out to their warehouse and measure the height of the roll-top door so we can get this huge truck inside. But eventually we found a location. They did the shoot. The shoot went great. And then the footage comes back and it goes into the edit. And the edit goes great too, although they did cut this one segment that I thought was great. One of the hosts put their head in front of the tire, and then the truck starts, goes to creep forward, and it does this like jump cut to a watermelon getting crushed, and it's like really obvious and cheesy. And I thought that made it hilarious, but what I thought was even funnier is that meant that Henry would have been in a grocery store that morning trying to figure out which watermelon was the closest to Justin's head. So then, 11 months after this whole thing started, the video gets released. It gets 3 million views. It does great. Probably earned between $30,000 and $50,000. I don't know exactly how much they were getting for the sponsored segment. Of course, I don't get any of that. And I get an email from a head engineer at International inviting us to like come to their facility and shoot something there if we want to, which we never got around to doing. So that's it. That's the story of how a 15-minute video took 11 months to make. We simply had to keep searching and wait until we found the best truck and the right opportunity to make that.